Hey, good morning, y'all. I just posted a video a couple days ago, and I kind of went down memory lane when I went to my hometown. And in that video, I was basically documenting the importance of having your affairs in order in terms of what happens to your body after you pass away. Like not relying on your family, making sure you have your own finances, your own, your will, everything set up in stone, right? But that was the purpose of me documenting the video, not realizing the blessing I was going to receive at the end of the video. I ended up running into the owner of the cemetery, which was very surprising to me because for years I have been trying to get a hold of who owns the property. I've tried to get in contact with the funeral home that buried my grandmother 20 something years ago. Like, this has been a very long process, and no one knew the exact owner. Basically, it sounded like the county was doing some like real fraudulent stuff behind the scenes, and nobody knew nothing. If you went on Google, the number that was attached to the cemetery, it was linked to it was actually like somebody's residential phone number, but it was linked to like the cemetery on Google. So this was been a long process for me and very heartbreaking, but I never gave up. I never gave up, and I knew eventually something was going to happen. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, but I knew that I was doing everything in my power to get things done, and it just wasn't working. So I say this to say, on a random day, I went down there to go do one thing, but I was like, well, actually, let me stop by so I can do my video, because I've had this idea that I wanted to do the video for quite some time, right? The moment I get to the cemetery is the moment, like in the video, you'll see as I'm walking into the cemetery, you see a van in the cemetery, like coming towards me. That was the owner. The owner. Perfect timing, man. And, divine timing, God's timing. And off topic, off of that subject, I was just reflecting and everything, and I was just thinking that sometimes in our minds we think that we have to relocate and we have to remove ourselves from the pain so that we can heal. And sometimes God will allow us to go right back into a place that hurt us so that we can heal. Sometimes it's actually best to be in an environment that you were broken in so that you can heal from it. Sometimes when you move away, you're only healed to a certain extent because it's out of sight, out of mind. So you really don't have certain triggers. And triggers can be anything, especially visually. You know, if something happened in a certain place and you're no longer in that place, and you no longer have anything to remind you of that place, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be triggered. But if you're put in an environment where this is the same place that hurt you, you see like everything in that area you're going to remember. You know what I mean? Like even down to like cracks on the sidewalk. Like when something is traumatic, you remember every detail. And removing yourself sometimes, yeah, it can be beneficial for the time being, but you never really fully heal until you go back to the scene almost. And that's just my personal opinion. That's actually been my experience. And it was so many areas I thought I was healed. In so many areas I thought I was able to kind of block things out up until I was faced with my reality. And my reality was God forced me to be back in a situation. He forced me to be back in a location so that I was able to heal. Now, he did not put me directly in the area where my pain and trauma happened as a child, but I'm close enough. I'm close enough where as though I still have access to it. I'm close enough where I'm still reminded. I still see signs to get there. Like, I'm close enough. And what I will tell you is when I went through what I went through over 20 something years ago, I thought when I left Florida, that would have been the end of it, right? Out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to see like visual. I'm a visual person. So for me, just being in an environment, seeing certain things, it's a trigger for me. Well, I thought I didn't have those worries because I wasn't in the area. And guess what? Not my plan, but God's plan. Unbeknownst to me, he knew eventually he was going to bring me right back down here. And boy, when I tell you, ever since I've been down here, it's been nothing but healing and healing and healing and healing and healing. And I feel like I'm so fucking healed. Like, it's funny, but it's not funny, man. Like, if you went through some real traumatic stuff, and to be able to sit and smile when you think about it, that's how you know you've healed. That's how you know. You don't break down no more. You don't question God no more. You know, I used to always wonder why me? I'm like, God damn, I knew I was an outcast as a child. I started to realize that shit when I was in middle school. Like, no lie. I really started to peep game like, yo, I'm really not like nobody else. Like, I just did not fit in. I started to experience things that my other classmates wasn't experiencing, like instability in terms of like moving around. Then, you know, losing a parent. Granted, it was a grandparent, but if that's who raised me, that's my parent. You know what I mean? So I was experiencing so much stuff at such a young age. I started to realize like there's something different about me. There's something like I just don't fit in. And the older I got, the more that really came into play. So because it hit me at such a young age, and God, you know, gave me the gift of discernment at such a young age, you have gifts all your life, but when you'll be able to tap into them is a whole different story. And because I was aware at such a young age, I instantly picked up the avoidance trait. I would avoid things, avoid places, avoid people, avoid whatever. So for me, when I experienced the biggest loss in my life, my biggest goal was to avoid it. I can't bring my grandmom back. I can't change the fact that she's not here, but what I can do is avoid being in the area that I grew up in. I can avoid seeing places that me and her used to go to. You know what I mean? I could avoid all that, so I left just to come right back. And I'm so grateful that God brought me back, because a part of me would have never fully healed. A part of me would have always been stuck. And that's what it does. Like when you don't heal, and you think you've healed and you kind of move on and you block things out, you never fully heal. You're always, it's a piece of you that's stuck. And then you get triggered and then you kind of go down this rabbit hole all over again. So if you find yourself like questioning why God is allowing you to go right back to something that hurt you, now take this with a grain of salt and also take every message back to God. I just want to say I'm not talking about an abusive person. That's not somebody that you want to pray to go back to. But to each his own. No judgment here. All I'm saying is I'm talking about more so like locations, like a place that, you know, you really got hurt and God brings you back, not a person. Or even if we're talking about a person, it ain't going to be someone who physically assaulted you, who you almost lost your life to. Like, God's not going to put you in a situation like that. That's not our God, okay? But, yeah, sometimes we got to stop running from the pain. Sometimes, you know, it definitely is easier to run from the pain, because who wants to feel pain? Nobody. So it's easier to block things out and to act like that never existed and just move on. But it's going to catch up to you eventually. And I think the best thing to do is go along with the flow. The more you try to fight it, the worse it's going to be. So follow the path of least resistance. That would be my advice.